Honorable members, please be reminded that the motion before the House is that this Honorable House expresses its total lack of confidence in the leadership of Honorable Alan M. Shastney, and be it further resolved that this Honorable House calls for the immediate resignation of the Honorable Alan M. Shastney as Prime Minister of St. Lucia. Member for Ancillary Canaries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my strongest and firmest and most tacit objection to this motion put forward by the Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, I will also go further to describe this motion as the biggest joke in our political history. Mr. Speaker, it is the first time that I see that an opposition political movement is trying to bring down a government or to force a vote so that they can perhaps cause the Prime Minister to have to resign. But, Mr. Speaker...
Honourable Member.
Yes, sir.
What we do here, even if we may not agree, do not call it a joke. Don't call it a joke.
It is, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, but you cannot call it a joke.
Mr. Speaker, if you would...
Because the consequences is profound, not just to the honourable member that the motion is talking to, but the nation with over 170,000 people, plus the diaspora. So please, just...
So, Mr. Speaker, I think that it is a point that I firmly believe in. And if you allow me, Mr. Speaker, I can expound and substantiate that point. Because, Mr. Speaker, the reason being is that not only is this motion so badly written and so ill-conceived...
Mr. Honourable Member,
yes,
let's
Mr.
not
Speaker.
go down this road again. We've been through the back and forth about the motion itself. Let's just move on.
Mr. Speaker, I'm here to debate the motion.
Let's just move on, okay?
Move on to what? So, Mr. Speaker, as I continue to express my opinions about the notion, Mr. Speaker, the members of the opposition had their turn to speak, and they described the performance of this government in the most divisive and in the most polarizing, and, Mr. Speaker, in the most disrespectful tone of voice. And so, Mr. Speaker, I will not relent, Mr. Speaker, as it pertains to my true feelings about this motion. And I will not relent as it pertains to my true feelings about the motive that is being perpetuated here today. Mr. Speaker, with all respect to you, it is my opinion that the motion put forward, Mr. Speaker, leaves a lot to be desired. Mr. Speaker, it is the first time I have seen a political movement attempting to bring a government down, but yet they're reluctant to vote. Mr. Speaker, it is instructive that tonight they will not only lose the vote, but they will lose this vote, Mr. Speaker, comprehensively and commandingly, Mr. Speaker, as all members on this side will be giving the Prime Minister their tacit support. Mr. Speaker, the reasons why I find this process extremely flawed could be found in some of the clauses which are very erroneous, Mr. Speaker. All day, Mr. Speaker, we sat here and we listened to MP after MP on the opposition side. And we saw, Mr. Speaker, a lot of untruths, a lot of misinformation, Mr. Speaker, a lot of opinions that were submitted, Mr. Speaker, that were very foreign to the truth. Mr. Speaker, let's take, for example, the submission by the leader of the opposition that the Prime Minister had given his friend the approval to sell passports to build a horse racing track. We have since been able to debunk that statement, and he is yet to withdraw it. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to use my opportunity to suggest to this Honorable House that that particular item be removed from the Hansard because it is not true.
Honorable Member, haven't we dealt with this matter? We have.
Yeah, but it's not, it has not been expunged from the House, from the Hansard
Honorable Member,
record.
we've dealt with this matter. Honorable Member, we've dealt with this matter. I have ruled on that matter. We've moved on from that matter. I have no issue.
Mr.
No. I have ruled on this particular matter.
Yes, Mr. Speaker,
you brought documents to the House. That is the issue.
But it is in the motion, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, but then the point you raised has been dealt with by me.
Very well, Mr. Speaker, we will move on. But I'm just saying that this is one of the untruths that many untruths that are being told here today. And so, Mr. Speaker, it is in the motion. It is in the Leader of the Opposition's presentation. But anyways, the member for Castries South is always very foreign from the truth. But Mr. Speaker, another reason why I do not support this motion lies in the other clause, Mr. Speaker, where the Leader of the Opposition suggested in the motion that the government paid range development $20 million. Mr. Speaker, there's nothing further from the truth. This was not so. But what the motion failed to do, Mr. Speaker, was to tell the people of St. Lucia that in a development agreement, Mr. Speaker, signed 6 days before the last general elections, that range development, a decision was taken to sell to them beachfront lands, 40 acres of beachfront land in Black Bay for a mere $2 million US. Mr. Speaker, this is unprecedented, that a deal would have been signed by a former Prime Minister when the Parliament was already dissolved, when the election was already called, that we are then taking it upon ourselves to sell foreigners' land below market value. And it raises a lot of questions. And that's what the motion did not tell us about the range development. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, that if the opposition was trying to arrive at truth, Mr. Speaker, then we would have seen this information. But the member for Castries South will have his day. And his day is coming very soon. He's one of the most boisterous and likes to interrupt members, and even now he's trying to interrupt me as I make my presentation. But he will have to answer to this House, Mr. Speaker, his true relationship with the former ambassador to the permanent representative, rather, to the IMO. Mr. Speaker, he will have to answer all the questions, Mr. Speaker, that are circulating about his Range Rovers. He will have to answer, Mr. Speaker, right, all of the questions pertaining to his involvement with that particular matter. But, Mr. Speaker, that's for another show. I'm moving on. So, Mr. Speaker, as I try to move on uninterruptedly without your protection, I want to say that...
point of order, this is becoming comical. The member from Castries, from Ansarikam, is suggesting I will have to come to this Parliament for my Range Rovers. Mr. Speaker, can I find out, Mr. Speaker, this is really improper conduct for a member of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, that I own Range Rovers and I will have to account to Parliament for the Range Rovers. Mr. Speaker, I like to laugh at Mr. Speaker, but it's 10 o'clock in the night and it's becoming comical and rather ludicrous now.
If you care to, I would explain.
Honorable Member.
Would you want me to explain?
Honorable Member, I don't know on what basis you'll answer to Parliament about your Range Rovers, but I guess in due course we'll know. Honorable Leader Honorable Member for Ancillary. Continue, sir.
So, Mr. Speaker, I cannot support this motion, Mr. Speaker, because, Mr. Speaker, there were more reckless handling of the management of this country. Mr. Speaker, this motion, in my view, is some 21 years late. Mr. Speaker, history will show us that not so long ago in 1998, a deal emerged, Mr. Speaker, where the former SLP administration got into an arrangement with a company that developed the Rochamel project at Pigeon Island, which then saw the construction of the Hyatt Hotel. Mr. Speaker, we all know that the taxpayers of St. Lucia are still paying millions of dollars in that particular agreement. Mr. Speaker, we all know what happened, Mr. Speaker, with the high levels of cost overrun with the West Coast Highway project. Mr. Speaker, we all know that the people of St. Lucia lost their seabed in the Grindberg affair. And Mr. Speaker, most recently, but not less controversially, Mr. Speaker, the Jafali affair, when we woke up one morning and we saw that a Saudi national was one of our diplomats, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, it is my view that the contents of this motion, that the reasons given by the opposition today do not warrant the resignation of the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in fact, I want to place on record my own support for the Prime Minister and my own approval in the management of his affairs, his management of the affairs of this country. Mr. Speaker, I believe in his vision for St. Lucia. I believe, Mr. Speaker, that he cares about the people of St. Lucia. I believe, Mr. Speaker, and I see and witness firsthand in my travels with him and in my meetings with him in the cabinet, his very honest and his commitment, Mr. Speaker, towards the development of this country. Mr. Speaker, when we came in, the unemployment rate of this country was 25% in 2015. Mr. Speaker, last year, it was 20%. And so in less than 2 short years, we were able to bring it down 5 percentage points. Mr. Speaker, we did what they couldn't do. They spoke for many years about dredging the John Compton Dam. Well, we're not talking about dredging the dam. We're actually doing the work, and we're dredging the dam to make sure that the water facilities and the water supply of this country is placed in a sustained path. Mr. Speaker, when last have St. Lucia seen economic growth of 3%? Mr. Speaker, when the member for Beaufort South was the Minister for Finance, the record will show, he was coming to this parliament and begging people to praise him and pat him on the back for a deceleration of negative growth, Mr. Speaker. So here you had a Minister of Finance who presided over successive recessions and had plunged St. Lucia by his own mismanagement of the affairs and the economy of this country, Mr. Speaker. And he was asking this honorable House that what they ought to have done was to pat him on the back for a deceleration of negative growth. Because as far as he was concerned, that he had done the country a favor by not just taking us out of the hole, but by taking us a little further away from the bottom of the hole. So low was the standard of the Labour Party. Mr. Speaker, our schools, despite what the opposition has done and has manufactured publicity to try to show up the Minister of Education, our schools are in better shape than they have been in a long time. And I'm speaking from my own experience as an MP. Mr. Speaker, the Jackmel School has just received a major refurbishment. Mr. Speaker, the Assembly Hall has been rebuilt. Thank you, Madam Minister, and your team. Mr. Speaker, the school has been repainted. Mr. Speaker, the roof at the ancillary primary school has been changed. The roof at the infant school in Millet has been changed. Mr. Speaker, the primary school in Millet in Venus has been completely reformed. New paint job, brand new roofing facility. The roof at the Canaries Infant School is the best it has ever been in years. And Mr. Speaker, this is just the testament of the fact that this government is working. And you know why that is so, Mr. Speaker? That is so because of one man. That is so because when we came in, we found the unfortunate circumstance that the Ministry of Education was spending $1 million in maintenance for the national school plans. You would have heard of stories of people in the South being electrocuted because of bad wiring in some of the school plants, and some of the facilities which leave a lot to be desired. Mr. Speaker, but I want to make it absolutely clear that it was the Honorable Alan Chasney who said that this is unacceptable, that we cannot put our children through this. And he decided that there was no other priority than to make sure that he gave the Minister of Education the financial support that she needed to rectify this unacceptable situation which we inherited from the St. Lucia Labour Party. And so, Mr. Speaker, for these reasons, I stand here today, Mr. Speaker, to totally debunk this joke of a motion. And if you want, I could withdraw the word joke. But, Mr. Speaker, I am being very honest and frank. It is an absolute waste of our time today. We heard nothing new from these gentlemen. They were all regurgitating the same old stock record. It was as if you were in the market steps and you were listening to one of the plays, Mr. Speaker, one of the comedy plays by the men in red shirts. They're wearing red ties today. But, Mr. Speaker, we have wasted an entire day, 12 hours, of national television.
Honorable
debating.
Member, Honorable Member, Honorable Member.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
No, you could remain standing. You could remain standing. I do not want to give the impression out there that what we're doing here is not in the best interest of our democracy.
Mr. Speaker,
Okay?
I'm not saying what we're doing.
I do not want to give that
Mr.
impression.
Speaker, if you listen to
so
me
I would
carefully,
want you, when you,
yes,
whatever you want to see, just express it in terms that you don't give the citizenry out there the impression that we inside of here, we're not working in their best interest.
Mr. Speaker, I meant the cumulative presentation time of the members of the opposition. But, Mr. Speaker, I wasn't referring, Mr. Speaker, to the House over which you presided. But, Mr. Speaker, the other thing that I must give my support to the Prime Minister and object to this motion, Mr. Speaker, it has to do with the record-breaking performances we've been having in tourism. And, Mr. Speaker, while I get excited being the Minister for Tourism that's presiding over all this, this really began back in 2007, 2008, to be honest. Mr. Speaker, the truth is that St. Lucia had a room stock of about 4,000 hotel rooms. And back then, we had air seats of about 1,500. And the same member who brought this bill was the tourism minister. The Prime Minister, who would have succeeded him, came in with a mammoth task to ensure that he put the requisite airlift in place, to ensure that there was commensurate airlines, air seats, with the room stock. And so you would see, if you look at the social economic review, that real change started happening in tourism in 2007. And that set the platform, Mr. Speaker, for all of the successes that we're having now. And that is the absolute truth. And that is an absolute fact. Our Canadian arrivals, Mr. Speaker, went from about 35,000 to about 80,000 in the space of 2 years. And the social economic review can prove that. Mr. Speaker, it was during that time we hit the million tourist arrival mark for the very first time. Because you know what, Mr. Speaker? I remember clearly, and I was in my other life, the private sector went absolutely confused when this administration was in charge. And they had refused to give American Airlines what they felt was too big a guarantee. And what they then did, Mr. Speaker, they said that BWI was going to pick up the slack, and they will give the money instead to BWIA because they were standing in solidarity with the Caribbean airline. Now, Mr. Speaker, that sounds great. Political rhetoric, as we've seen here today. This motion has been nothing but political rhetoric. But nothing that they have said, Mr. Speaker, nothing they have said can truly transform this country. And so I say all of this to say that back then, when they had suggested they were standing in solidarity with BWIA, it was a nonsensical decision because BWIA has no reputation in the marketplaces that we depend on for tourism. BWIA didn't at the time, when they did the rebranding and became Caribbean Airlines, Mr. Speaker, had the capacity to replace American Airlines. But I say this, Mr. Speaker, to demonstrate their own lack of understanding of what tourism is all about and what needs to happen to make this work. And so when you hear the member for Castries South saying, well, we have less ships coming, but we have more people. You know, I will only respond to that as a gentleman saw me on the weekend and he said, well, what does the member for Castries South want? Does he want 500 canoes with 4 people each? Or does he want St. Lucia to be a modernized cruise port? But, Mr. Speaker, their political stunts have been so laughable today that I didn't have to tickle myself. I laughed the whole day. Mr. Speaker, it was the most entertaining this House has ever been. When the member for Viewfort North spoke, that's the only time I fell asleep, I must be honest. But, Mr. Speaker, the whole time, I was absolutely laughing. Because the member for Castries South, who says that he's a CIP expert, okay? He said he went to Oxford. Cambridge, sorry. But is the only man who pronounces September as September, graduated from Cambridge. But, Mr. Speaker, here is what it is. CIP approval, Mr. Speaker. If you look at the CIP reports, Mr. Speaker, while he was chairman, you would see that the Citizen by Investment Unit almost went bankrupt. And I did that presentation. I made the reports a document of the House. There were losses, just as when he presided over West Indies cricket. Because that is his leadership style. He will say things, he will use fancy words, Mr. Speaker, even though he's running organizations bankrupt. But what happened when we came in? We did the sensible thing. We realized that St. Lucia had come late. It wasn't about a fixed ideological position, but what we did realize is that we were competing against countries who were adjusting their rates. And so St. Lucia coming in last couldn't, Mr. Speaker, afford to peg its CIP rates above islands that were in the CIP program way before us. And what happened? Right? Money started rolling. We became profitable within 6 months of taking over the CIP. And now this year, I'm sure that the Prime Minister very soon will announce that we've had the best year ever in CIP revenue. And you will see it in the last financial year. Now, what do we say? What we're saying here, Mr. Speaker, is that the facts don't lie. But politicians, especially when they're wearing red, they do. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I am very happy as I talk about tourism and as I talk about investment that we are well in tune, Mr. Speaker, despite all the scare tactics, despite all the political gamesmanship that we've seen here today, all of the theatrics from the actors in red. That's what they are. They're actors, Mr. Speaker. They were trained by actors. I know you know what I mean. But, so Mr. Speaker, the airport facility is not an act. It's not a game. Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious project that this government has banked its hopes on, and the hopes and aspirations of the people of St. Lucia on, for the transformation of not only the southern communities, but, Mr. Speaker, it is all part of a comprehensive rebuilding of the tourism industry, where when we establish a state-of-the-art facility in the member for Vieux Fort's South constituency, something he hasn't done in 20 years, he's won 5 times. And what he hasn't done, we will do. And that is, we will transform the South and make it a hub, Mr. Speaker, for tourism. And St. Lucia will become that home porting hub for cruise vessels and for hotel guests that are coming and overnighting and coming for cruising as well. And we will have a modern state-of-the-art facility, Mr. Speaker, right next to it. And what we will, Mr. Speaker, pronounce in this development is the home porting hub of the Caribbean. That is what they are afraid of, Mr. Speaker. They are afraid that when we establish our work, and when, Mr. Speaker, the full shape of our work, Mr. Speaker, is initiated, they are afraid that they will be embarrassed. This is all this motion is about. This is all this drama is about. It's about trying to distract. As they realize, Mr. Speaker, an important signing took place not so long ago, Mr. Speaker, for the design phase of the West Coast Highway, a project that the Honorable Minister for Infrastructure will be presiding over. Mr. Speaker, they have realized that we meant business when we say that we will ensure that we give adequate attention to the roads in St. Lucia that are in such dire straits. That's what this whole thing is about. This is not they know they can't win this vote. This motion was dead before it was born. And they know it. But what this is about, Mr. Speaker, this is about getting some free television airtime, coming to tell people, well, this is what's going on. Not too many people are aware of what really happens constitutionally in the parliament. So anyone can shout, vote of no confidence. Let's stir up some trouble. But, Mr. Speaker, you know what that is? That is cheap. That is cheap, and that is low. And that is as low as this motion. And, Mr. Speaker, I say to you that tonight, I can't support this motion. I can't support the motive that accompanies this motion. Mr. Speaker, I cannot support the contents of this motion. I cannot, Mr. Speaker, support the way that this motion was written. I cannot, Mr. Speaker, support this in my good conscience. Mr. Speaker, through you, I want to tell the Honourable Member for Micoud South that he's doing a fabulous job, and he's got my support. And there's nothing that was said by any member on this side that has convinced me one iota that we need to change the captain of this team. Mr. Speaker, this team is a winning team. Mr. Speaker, this team will deliver to the people of St. Lucia. And, Mr. Speaker, when they are ready to vote, they know that they are losing this vote bad. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Babylon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I really thought we'd have come here and take a vote and of course deal with more important matters as it pertains to this Parliament. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we have been debating a motion of no confidence in the Honourable Alan M. Shasney, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation and External Affairs. Mr. Speaker, this motion will go down in the records of this Honourable House as a package motion. Package motion. Mr. Speaker, why would the member for Castries East and leader of the opposition, and by extension, Mr. Speaker, the opposition, come with such a motion? Why? Even if they are aware that, Mr. Speaker, that this motion would not go through. You know what's interesting, Mr. Speaker? You know what's very interesting? This motion is saying that the opposition has no confidence in themselves. And the reason why I'm saying that, Mr. Speaker, I know, and we all know, that they want to be in governance. And moving a motion against the Honourable Prime Minister would not allow them to accomplish this, which means they have no confidence in themselves. And that is why they never decided to move a motion against the government. But of course, you know, Mr. Speaker, that we are workers. Yeah. And we belong to a group of workers. Yeah. And we are led by a Prime Minister who is a worker. Yeah. And who has delivered, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, what's the objective of this motion? Tell me what this motion is intended to accomplish. You all know it's 2.5 years. And the Honourable Prime Minister has said on many occasions, Mr. Speaker, he needs 3 years. He has said in this Honourable House, he needs 3 years. He needs 3 years.
Well, that too.
He'll get more than 2 terms. But he said in his first instance, he needs 3 years. But of course, he needs 3 years to remove us from the mess that we found. Mr. Speaker. But you know, they have seen the success and the accomplishments of this government. They have seen the success and accomplishments of the Honourable Prime Minister. So the strategy is try to derail the Prime Minister, try to make him refocus away from the objective that we have set ourselves. But that cannot work. Yeah. It cannot work. It did not work from 2014. Not now it's going to work, Mr. Speaker. Not now it's going to work. It did not work in 2013. They'll try everything in 2013 when he became leader of the United Workers' Party. They'll try everything. And the people still voted first. And in fact, as leader of the United Workers' Party, the record will show that he got one of the largest majority of votes in the history of elections in St. Lucia. So that's a level of confidence that the people of this country have in the Prime Minister. And after 2.5 years, after 2.5 years and what we have accomplished so far, though I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, that when the time comes, we shall see the return of this government, the United Workers' Party government, to govern this country under the leadership of Honorable Alan Shasta. And you all cannot change that. You all cannot tell us who to choose as our leader. You cannot tell us that. We have to make that decision. We are the ones working with him. And we know his ability and capabilities. Mr. Speaker, when I look at the motion speaks to St. Lucia has been governed in a manner that has undermined our Constitution. True. Its convention and practices, really, led to abuse of public office, unreasonable and irrational decision-making, unsustainable fiscal deficit, squandering of financial resources of the state, and which has resulted in a lack of public trust and confidence in the leadership of the government of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, there's nothing in this motion, nothing to substantiate what has been said there. Nothing. Nothing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you speak about undermining convention and practices. There's some oublié. They forget, Mr. Speaker, and I want to remind them, convention and practices. When it was a convention and practice for the leader of the opposition to be the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, what did they say? That's a convention and practice we're stopping. When it's a convention and practice for the leader of the opposition to finish debate in this honorable house, what did they do? They stop it. They do bookly. So Kim parle about convention and practice. Convention and practice, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, squandering of financial resources of the state. Ouch. Where are the records in this motion, Mr. Speaker, to speak to that submission? Very strong, Mr. Speaker. Where are the records to speak to this, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, let me give you 2 projects I can speak to that allegation. Squandering of financial resources of the state by those on the opposite. And that is the type of information I was expecting to see in the motion to allow us to make a decision. Not open-ended statements, nothing to substantiate it, and the same rhetoric we have been hearing for the past 2.5 years. That's all we heard in this honorable house for the day, you know. The same rhetoric, same thing over and over. And come March this year, you go ahead the same thing again, Mr. Speaker, in the budget when we decide to debate the budget. Mr. Speaker, so we're talking about squandering of financial resources of the state. 2 projects, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, I can speak to it because they mentioned it during the debate. The first project, Mr. Speaker, is the MPF, the meat processing facility. Mr. Speaker, when they came in 2012, during the 2012 budget, which they presented in this honorable house, the first budget after elections, they made an allocation to finish the MPF, which I spoke about today, to finish it, an allocation of $13,800,000. It's in the estimates of 2012, 2013. And Mr. Speaker, this project was almost finished. It was almost finished when it came in 2011. Almost finished. Abattoir était almost finished. Il était presque fini, Mr. Speaker. Il est presque fini le vini en gouvernement in 2011. Et puis you allocated $13,800,000 for as the cost to complete, the total cost to complete the MPF. So that was the project cost, $13,800,000. You speak about squandering money. Mr. Speaker, in 2014, 2015, that figure moved from $13,800,000 to $19,419,882. A project that was almost finished. In the 2000, Mr. Speaker, estimates 14, 15, in the 2014-15 estimates, it moved from $13,800,000 to $19,419,892. That's the abattoir. That's the abattoir. And they made a further provision, Mr. Speaker, in the 2015-16 budget of $312,938 to commission it. It is commissioned in what way? Is it a commission in what way? You speak about the abattoir. I want you to answer these questions, member for Vifort North. I want you to, I told you already, speak on about in his house. When I'm there, to speak. Mr. Speaker, another project, Mr. Speaker. They speak about squandering. Another project is spoke about in the motion, the OKEU and St. Jude's. Very interesting. I don't know why they have to open the door. Why? These are dead issues. Let's move on. But you want to come and debate. Why instead let's close the debate? Let's close it. Because we know.
Mr. Speaker.
We know, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, the member is misleading the House. The member is misleading the House. The member has indicated to this honorable House that the meat processing plant was almost finished in 2011. Mr. Speaker, on the 30th of June 2011, the former Ambassador Tom Chu wrote a letter to the Prime Minister with several concerns. June 2011. And some of it, Mr. Speaker, concerns that the builder at the time was not following the original design for the building, Mr. Speaker. There were several problems. The building was not almost completed. I have a report, Mr. Speaker, that with a chronology of everything that happened in the meat processing plant, letters from the Taiwanese ambassador with complaints about the structure of the building. By 2012, another report came in complaining about cost increases because of A, bill of quantities at variance to the design structures, B, changes to the foundation, layout and design, C, incomplete and inadequate design drawings, D, possible claims by the contractor due to work stoppage from as early as 2009, and so on.
Honorable member.
So, Mr. Speaker, the member
Honorable member.
Yes.
You said you have a report. Can you indicate which report it is, please? So to give the honorable minister an opportunity to because you're saying he's saying that it was almost complete. You take an issue with that?
Mr. Speaker, I'm taking issue with that because the facts, and he has all the facts in the ministry.
I'm not disputing what you're saying, but you also said you have a report which makes reference to that.
Mr. Speaker, I did my own chronology based on documents in the ministry.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, and I have every single
Honorable Minister, Honorable Minister and Member for Babono, the Honorable Member is indicating that you're wrong, so in the sense, well, you're wrong for saying that the MPF was almost complete. It was not.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure the Honorable Member would agree that when I was the Minister of Agriculture between the period 2006 to 2011, I came into this Honorable House and I said that we were having challenges with the foundation. It is a record in this Honorable House. It's a record in this Honorable House. But I'm hearing that he had a letter from June 2006 from the ambassador of Taiwan. I won't say a copy of that letter.
But you wouldn't?
I would like to say a copy of that letter.
Okay.
Okay? Make it a document of the House. Make a report a document of the House. But I'm telling you, I'm staying here without any challenge by the member of the opposite that when you came in, the meat processing facility was 80% finished. 80%. 80% finished. Just 80% finished. 80% finished. So you have moved it. In fact, in your estimates, and I'm challenging you that your estimates for 2012, let me go back to it because you bring it up. From 2012, your estimate 2012 to 13, in your estimates for 2012 to 14, you said it is going to cost $14,800,000. That's a fact. And in 2014-15, it went up to 19.4 million. Okay? So that's a fact. Let me move on, Mr. Speaker. Let me move on. Mr. Speaker, the St. Jude's and OKEU. I'm moving on. I'm coming back to you just now, don't worry. I finished with you, I'll come back to you just now. Okay? Mr. Speaker, the motion speaks to St. Jude's and OKEU. The motion speaks to St. Jude's and OKEU, Mr. Speaker. Okay? I want to blame the Honorable Prime Minister after 2.5 years for not being able to finish St. Jude's and OKEU, and saying as a result of this, the health sector in this country is in a mess. Mr. Speaker, what a shame. What a shame. Mr. Speaker, I want to quote, and in fact, Mr. Speaker, the member for Castries East said, whatever happened in cabinet is the responsibility of the whole. He said so today. So I'm telling him that whatever was said in this honorable house is the responsibility of the whole, which he was part of. So if you have no confidence in us now, I'm going to give information where he should have no confidence in himself whilst he operated as the member of government in this honorable house. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I quote, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, on the point of order, the minister is misleading the House. I do not think in my presentation today I said anything about cabinet. I never said so. So if the minister wants to make his points, tell him to make his points with facts. Today in this honorable house, I never said anything about any cabinet. So the minister, if you want, let him have his facts and state it properly. I'm very careful with my words, very careful, extremely careful. Anything I say, I'm very careful about it. I never said so.
So, Mr. Speaker, I will continue. The motion speaks to St. Jude's and OKEU. And Mr. Speaker, I'll deal with the OKEU first, Mr. Speaker. And I'm quoting, Mr. Speaker, a presentation made in this honorable house by those opposite as it pertains to the OKEU hospital. And in fact, at that time, it was called the new national hospital. Mr. Speaker, I quote the then Prime Minister in his budget address of 2012-2013 in this Honorable House, which the Leader of the Opposition has an equal responsibility because he's a member of the team. And I quote, Mr. Speaker, not you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the construction of the new National Hospital commenced in July 2009. And that's correct. And is scheduled to be completed in December 2012. An allocation of $42.4 million has been included in this year's budget. That was what he said in 2013 estimates.
Kenny that said that, not Tony.
All right? And he went on to say, Mr. Speaker, that the estimated cost of this new national hospital will be $134,140,260. That's what he said. That's what you all said in 2012. It will finish. L'hôpital là est fini en décembre l'année ça. That's what you all said. 2012. So now, after 2.5 years in government, you want to blame the Honorable Prime Minister, and you said it's going to cost $134,140,260. That's what you said. That was squandering of government money. What do you think said? Squandering of the financial resources of the state. You know what? When they came back in 2016, 2015-16, Mr. Speaker, what the figure moved from to? It moved from $134,140,260 to $170 million. That's the OKEU. In 2015, 2016. All right? And it still was not finished. It's still pas fini.
The laundry still est finished.
L'hôpital là still pas fini, Mr. Speaker. Après combien d'années? 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16. It still was not finished. When they gave a commitment for it to finish in December 2012. Let's go to St. Jude's. Let's go to St. Jude's, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, the member of opposition was a member, the leader of the opposition was a member in this parliament in 2012. You're in government when that statement was made.
And you write a papi show like that?
You're in government when that statement was made. And this is what was said in 2012, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm anxious for the nightmare of the people of the South to end. You know, Mr. Speaker? I'm anxious for the nightmare of the people of the South to end in 2012. I pray, I pray that as promised, that all the major works will be completed by August 31st, 2012. That's what was said. In 2012, when the then government presented in this honorable house, that was what was said, Mr. Speaker. He went on to say In this coming financial year, government has approved a budgetary allocation of $15.9 million. So he allocated, or they allocated, $15.9 million to finish St. Jude's by the 31st of August 2012. So why you want to blame the Prime Minister, Honorable Alan Shasti, now? Why? Why? When you gave a commitment in 2012 to finish the hospital, you made an allocation of $15.9 million. You never finish it before your term ended, and you want to blame the Prime Minister and to talk about use chemical and clean down the hospital? Use chemical? The Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind us here that the record speaks for itself, and we should not be too quick to cast judgment. Give the Prime Minister a chance. He said give him 3 years. Give him 3 years. Give him a chance. He's working. We are working. Give him a chance, because the people have put you all out because you all have not been able to perform. So, Speaker, another project that I remember debating is the Hironora International Airport. A project that will cost about $450 million. When we came in, we got a proposal to enter into an agreement with some company for 30 years. And when we calculated the figure of over $900 million, you know, $1 million will be given to this individual. Mr. Speaker, cost overrun. You remember what they could talk about cost overrun? Which governments that brought in cost overrun, Mr. Speaker? Which government? You know, which government? And in 2012, Mr. Speaker, you know, this government, the opposition spoke about a free plan point for recovery. They said they have 3 points for recovery. Free. Job creation, number 1. Construction stimulus, and no staff if the construction stimulus, sir.
As them who benefit from the construction stimulus. 2 people.
And fiscal consolidation. 3 priority areas for recovery. Okay. Let's look at priority number 1, Mr. Speaker. Job creation. And what they presented to us is that they moved from lip to nice to smile to yep to step. That's what they presented to us. Lip to nice to smile to yep to step. And when they came in, they talk about recovery, you know. They talk about recovery, job creation, priority number 1, recovery. And watch the records, Mr. Speaker. The records. In 2012, when they came in, they found an unemployment rate of 21.2%. That's what they found. Because, and they talk about recovery. So if you talk about recovery, I would expect the 21.2% to go down to about 10%. Because you move from lip to nice to smile to yep to step. But, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, that was not the case. That was not the case, Mr. Speaker. Unemployment went up. It went up under them. It went up. Oui, il montait. Il montait plus haut. Des plus haut. Parce que ça, on est gars souffert plus.
That's their recovery.
That's what you call recovery. It went up to 24.1% in 2015. But of course, my Honorable Prime Minister, after 2.5 years, has been able to bring down the unemployment, right? Has been able to bring down the unemployment through his policies and programs to 20.2%. You have a vote of no confidence in him. Who's up and hot? to pack a hut. You know? After 2.5 years, he moved it from 24.1% to 20.2%, and you're talking about a vote of no confidence in him? Where should there be the vote of no confidence? When you spoke about your recovery and job creation would be one of #1 priority of your recovery, member for Castries East, leader of the opposition. Why didn't you bring a vote of no confidence against your own leader? Why didn't you bring? Mr. Speaker, I'm hearing about a leasing of 1,000 acres of land in Viewfort. Mr. Speaker, why they go down there? Why? We never leased 1,000 acres of land in Viewfort. We never leased 1,000 acres of land in Viewfort. We never. The racetrack is not 1,000 acres of land. Where get that from? Where get that from? But Mr. Speaker, I believe they were speaking to themselves, because I'm sure we all here would remember, and this has been a document of the House, a letter of the 9th of April 2016, months before elections, months before the general elections of 2016, a letter coming from the leader of the opposition as a member of cabinet, signed by his prime minister on his behalf. You know, to one Mr. Robert Innsworth, Mr. Speaker. And you know what page the letter said? They are going to lease or purchase land primarily in the south of 1,000 acres to construct a manufacturing plant. 1,000 acres of land to construct a manufacturing plant? Monsieur, I've never heard that before.
Mr. Speaker,
1,000 acres of land, Mr. Speaker.
On the point of order, the member is misleading the House. He has a letter in his hand that he's circulated all over, and he's lying about the contents of the letter. Because in that letter, he can never read to the House any part of that letter that says the government will lease any land. He can never read it. I defy him to that letter and read it from point A to point B. He can never find there where the government,
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order,
government will rent, the government is going to lease
Honorable member for Grosley.
The minister
until
is
after
misleading the House because the letter he's reading, if that is the letter that we are speaking about, will never have anything that says that the government will lease any land. Never.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, I have in fact ruled that we should never, ever so refer to our honorable members as lying.
Mr. Speaker,
So I would like
I withdraw.
you to.
I withdraw.
Honorable member for Babono, save for that, you heard the point of order that the member is saying that whatever document you have,
You want to read it? I give it to you before you read it.
whatever you have. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, allow me, please.
Mr. Speaker, I need to him to read.
You could send it across to him if you so wish. So I'm just asking to take note of
I'm going to read
and
it.
you said whatever you have is a document of the House, so I am not going.
Yes, I read the document of the House. You would acquire by lease or purchase land primarily in the south of the island, measuring approximately 1,000 acres to construct a manufacturing plant.
By lease or purchase.
By lease or purchase. By lease or purchase.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, 48. 48. Mr. Speaker, I would like to hear
Honorable-
the contribution of the member who is making his presentation.
Very well, I so accept. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, are you going to, I see you reaching to the mic.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, don't matter all the noise. The fact is, he can never say in that letter.
You need to indicate, Mr. Honorable Leader,
the
Honorable
member
Leader,
for- the
Honorable
member
Leader
for
of the
Babylon.
Opposition,
The member for Babono.
Honorable
can
Leader
never-
of the Opposition.
Whose land is involved?
Please turn off your light, please, Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Yes.
Turn off your light, please.
Sure.
Honorable Leader, I have heard your initial objection, and the member for Babon has yet, and you've so indicated to him that you've so put to him the contents of the letter you believe that he has, or he has indicated that he has. Honorable member for Babono, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition is indicating that government was not leasing these lands, and the land was being leased by who? I can't remember the name that you suggested, or you said that was in it, and not by the government. So you've not said it, but I'm just putting you on alert that he's taking issue before you even say, because very likely you may very well say that the government was the one involved. Continue.
So, Mr. Speaker, the letter speaks about acquiring by lease or purchase lands in the south, measuring 1,000 acres to construct a manufacturing plant. And that letter, Mr. Speaker, came from the Honorable Prime Minister at the time on the February the 9th, 2016, to one Robert Inzuth. So when you talk about we giving 1,000 acres of land, Mr. Speaker, I wonder, who are you referring to?
That's what they were talking about.
I think that's what they were talking about, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said about agriculture. And I listened to the Honourable Member for Gifford North, who is always out of sync with his information. Never correct about anything pertaining to agriculture. Never.
Not his fault, a teacher he was never a farmer.
But he's a trained agriculturist, Mr. Speaker. An old farmer at that.
He was a farmer?
Old farmer, that's how they call them. That's how we call ourselves, old farmer. Mr. Speaker, when we came in 2016, Mr. Speaker, let me inform this Honourable House once again.
Tell him ask Nancy about farming. Nancy will tell him about
Once again, Mr. Speaker, what we found as it pertains to agriculture, and specifically the banana industry. We found in the banana industry, Mr. Speaker, under cultivation, 1,100 and approximately 17 acres of acres in cultivation. We found 230 farmers engaged in banana production. And out of these 230 farmers, Mr. Speaker, 195 were exporting to the UK. That's what we found. Mr. Speaker, with the help of our Honourable Prime Minister and Cabinet, based, of course, on reviewing the program we made there as it pertains to bananas. And you have always said that black Sigatoga alone, Mr. Speaker, you cannot realize any increase in production or in productivity. You cannot. You're just wasting resources. That's what we said. So, yes, we formed the Black Sigatoga program, and we reviewed it. And Cabinet agreed to restructure the entity and to look at a more comprehensive, Mr. Speaker, program. Not only the management and control of Black Sigatoga, but other aspects as it pertains to banana production. And in April of 2017, the Honourable Prime Minister, who I must say is very committed to agriculture, I must say this, it can be said he's representing an agricultural community, constituency. That's not a fact. Before he was representing any constituency, Mr. Speaker, as Minister of Tourism, I could get the support from him as it pertains to creating the linkages between agriculture and tourism. So it's not because he's representing a constituency now. That has been the way he operates. And yes, he's a farmer. He has a FAR. So in 2017, Mr. Speaker, we launched the Banana Productivity Improvement Project, BPIP. With support from the Minister of Finance and Cabinet, and of course, the government and people of Taiwan. And what are the results today? The results today, Mr. Speaker, is that we have moved from 230 registered banana farmers to 740 registered banana farmers. That's a fact. That is a fact. We have moved, Mr. Speaker, from 111,000 acres to 2,600 acres. We have moved from 1,100 acres to 2,600 acres.
That's 150%.
That is a fact, Mr. Speaker. That is a fact. You know what that means, Mr. Speaker? You know what that means? The farmers of St. Lucia have confidence in the United Workers' Party. The farmers of St. Lucia have confidence in the leader of the United Workers' Party. That is a fact. Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that we have experienced between 2006 to now 3 tropical storms. 3. Let's compare the figures. And you won't say the Prime Minister is not speaking the truth. Let's compare the figures. So when his Prime Minister made a statement, Mr. Speaker, he was correct. He was correct in his pronouncement as it pertains to the export of banana figures. Yes, correct. In 2014, and in fact, Mr. Speaker, I must say that the member and the government of the St. Lucia Labour Party have never experienced more challenges like we have experienced when it comes to agriculture, the negative impact of climate change. They have never. When we were there between 2006 and 11, 2 hurricanes, the worst drought ever. And yet still, Mr. Speaker, our production figures show that it was the highest. When they came in, the only thing they experienced was a Christmas Eve trough. That's the only thing they experienced, a Christmas Eve trough. And I heard a member for Viewfork North coming and crying, saying, I experienced a Christmas Eve trough, and that's why the banana production has gone down. You know? Mr. Speaker, the figures. 2014, we exported 8,895 tons under his watch. 2015, 8,449 tons. 2016, Mr. Speaker, 7,091 tons. 2016. You know why, Mr. Speaker? We had Tropical Storm Matthew. Mr. Speaker, in 2017, Mr. Speaker, the figures are there to show. We went up to 8,898 tons. And we exported in the region 4,846 tons. You can check it out in the Economic Social Review. It's there. The figures are there. That's where I took it from. Look for it. You're not seeing it. When you speak about banana production and export, you're not seeing it conveniently. Not, you know, conveniently, you know. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, despite, Mr. Speaker, despite we experienced Tropical Storm Kurt, despite that, Mr. Speaker, That's to show you the level of production we had on the ground. Despite the fact that we experienced Tropical Storm Kurt in 2018, the Prime Minister is correct. We experienced the highest export in recent times. 9,413 tons, Mr. Speaker. He's correct. And for the regional market, 5,160 tons. He's correct. So how can you say the Prime Minister is not, you know what you're talking about? Okay? So, Mr. Speaker, the figures are showing that despite the fact that we got 80% damage. You want to compare figures? You want to compare figures? That's the highest you have ever reached. Yeah, the highest you have ever reached.
Honorable Member Babono.
Mr. Speaker, for you. Mr. Speaker, that's the highest you have ever reached. 13,000 tons in this rain. When we experienced, Mr. Speaker, tropical storm, Hurricane Thomas, in 2010, Mr. Speaker, when we experienced Hurricane Thomas and the worst drought ever, you know what our production figure was? 20,000 tons. 20,000. What is the figure for 2010? What is the figure for 2010? For you, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask him, what's the figure for 2010? I want to ask you, what's the figure for 2010? You know? So, Mr. Speaker, now it's estimated that we have seen the highest in recent years. Okay? The Speaker, I've spoken.
Honorable Member for Babono. Let me get the other members. Honorable members, the Honorable Member for Babono would like to be.
No, Mr. Speaker, you can go ahead. I have no problem with that. I listen to him in silence, quietly. I know I'm coming back. I know when I come back, that's how you're going to behave. I know that's how you're going to behave, you know. Now it's shadowing health, not even agriculture, it's shadowing health. You know, you run away from agriculture. Once in a while, you hear speak about agriculture. Mr. Speaker, let's speak about the 200% export. I've said it in this honorable already. I've explained that. I said, Mr. Speaker, that Wind Fresh, in its projection for 2017 or 18, I can't remember exactly which one, based on the projection to purchase bananas from St. Lucia, at the end of the year, they purchased 200% more than what they projected to purchase from St. Lucia for the year. That's what I'm saying. That's what we said. The figures are there. We never said we exported 200% of bananas. We said what the figures are. I've explained that. This honorable member is quite aware of that explanation. He seems to be bringing it up over and over and saying the same thing over and over, Mr. Speaker. I've said where the 200% comes from. So why you keep on bringing it up? Why? Why? And Mr. Speaker, let's talk about the French market. I mean, as an old farmer, I never expect you to stand in this honorable house and believe, Mr. Speaker, that we would ever export bananas to Martinique. Come on. That makes sense? Where have the Prime Minister said we're going to export bananas to Martinique? What we said is that we met with a company in Martinique who are exporting bananas to France, Mr. Speaker. That's what we said. We met with a company in Martinique who exports bananas to France. And as a result, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and myself went to France and met with the importer in France. That's what we said. And Mr. Speaker, I can tell you what has been accomplished. Nous ne pas jamais dire que vous vérifiez Martinique. Mais là, je parle de ça. Vous avez dit même là tous les années, tous les jours, tous les mois, on fait ça. Nous disons que vous vérifiez Martinique. Nous disons que vous vérifiez Guadeloupe. Qui m'a vérifié Martinique, Guadeloupe? Ça va faire science? Ça va faire science? Nous avons vérifié en France. En France. En France, c'est ça nous dit. C'est ça nous dit. Nous avons vérifié. I come into that. I come into that. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that the company in France has met with Windfresh. The company in France, and I'm not going to speak about that again, honestly. I'm not going to speak about that again. The company in France has met with Winfresh. The company in France has visited the facilities in London, and they have given the approval that they are satisfied with the quality and the standard of Winfresh in London. We have designed and developed a packaging material, the box, for us to ship the bananas, Mr. Speaker. And it was our intention, we had agreed, because the company sent a proposal, and you know because you're very close to Conibat. You're very close to Conibat, you all know everything that's going on. So go get the information. The company sent a proposal, the company sent information to Winfresh, all right, indicating that they are willing to start purchasing St. Lucia bananas in January 2018. That was the agreement. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we experienced a tropical storm in the ending of November 2017. You know? Okay? So we could not export because we experienced a tropical storm. In 2018, Mr. Speaker, when we agreed to start shipping, just sit down there and listen. Right? When we agreed, Mr. Speaker, listen, I'm not going to speak about it again, Mr. Speaker. I'm not going to be allowed now. I'm not going to discuss that in the House again. Okay? When we agreed, Mr. Speaker, to ship it 2018, what happened? The Winfresh told us that they're experiencing problems in getting bananas out of the DR. So we should at least give priority to our traditional markets. So here it is, we could not be able to ship in April, in 2018 to the French market. Again, when you're ready to go, Hurricane Cook. So, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that based on the pronouncement made by Winfresh, as a government, and that's the difference between the St. Lucia Labour Party government and the United Workers' Party government, we have told Winfresh that they cannot renege on their responsibility. Their responsibility is, first of all, to buy bananas from the Windward Islands. Unfortunately or fortunately, whichever side of the coin you want to look at it, the only Windward Island banana country shipping bananas right now is St. Lucia. Right? And before Hurricane Kirk, Mr. Speaker, we were averaging about 15,000 boxes a week. Right? So now for the projection, and that's why you're making the mistake. Listen. The projection and the contract that Winfresh want to sign for 2019 is 6,000 boxes. We tell them that cannot work. That cannot work. If before the storm, we are already doing 15,000 boxes, how now you go come and tell us for 2019 you want to purchase 6,000 boxes? And the Prime Minister told him it cannot work. No, it cannot work. So I'm telling you, I am telling you, Mr. Speaker, that the farmers are all ready, and we are going to tell Mr. Conibert and Winfresh our position, and we have told him that it cannot work. So, Mr. Speaker, I can say that the agricultural sector, with the support of the Honorable Prime Minister, is on the right direction. We have a government, we have a leader, we have a cabinet that showing interest in the agricultural sector. And in fact, the Prime Minister have said that we want to give support to our farmers as it pertains to agricultural feeder roads.
Yes.
You all said that for 15 years. 15 years, you did nothing for farmers as it pertains to agricultural feeder roads. Nothing. In the new financial year, Mr. Speaker, we shall be speaking to how we are going to help our farmers as it pertains to agricultural feeder routes.
Honorable Member for Barbono, you have 5 minutes in which to complete your
5 minutes, Mr. Speaker. They disturb me so many times.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, vegetable production, again, we shall be speaking in this honorable house what our programs are as it pertains to reducing on the importation of a number of crops that we know that we can produce in St. Lucia, and the Honorable Prime Minister that have the full confidence of the founders of St. Lucia has agreed to give resources to that program, Mr. Speaker. The restructuring of Fish Marketing Corporation and removing all the drainage that's taken place at Fish Marketing Corporation, just by Fish Marketing Corporation, $15 million, let's say, la hankalas gaspillé la Fish Marketing Corporation. We're stopping that. We are going to stop that. For the restructuring of the Fish Marketing Corporation, Mr. Speaker. You know, the Speaker, the Agricultural Incentive Bill, and the Agricultural Incentive Bill, which they brought in this honorable house, making it very cumbersome and difficult for farmers to get incentive on a timely basis. You know, very cumbersome and difficult. We are going to change it and make amendments to it in the new financial year. So, Mr. Speaker, I know time is running out. I want to say in this honorable house that those on the opposite side cannot tell us who to be our leader. We have selected Honorable Alan Shasney as the leader of this party, and we are going to give him the fullest confidence as the leader of this party. All the records are showing, Mr. Speaker, that Mr. Alan Shasney, Honorable Prime Minister, Member for Parliament for Miku South, is the best person now to lead the country now and in the future. We have seen no one on the other side that has that ability, capability to lead the country. And I want to say here today that we have the fullest confidence in Honorable Alan Shasney as our leader. And the country, Mr. Speaker, the country has the fullest confidence in Honorable Alan Shasney as a leader. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member Castries Selfish.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to take part in this debate a bit reluctantly, but I must, in any case, Mr. Speaker, say that in no uncertain terms I do not support this motion being made by the leader of the opposition. Mr. Speaker, it appears to me that the way the opposition used to run the government, that they believe today that it's the same style of leadership that exists in the United Workers' Party. You see, there was a schoolmaster mentality in the Labour Party government where one man made all of the decisions. Mr. Speaker, and no wonder the motion would come to the House, a motion on the Prime Minister. This government, this cabinet takes collective responsibility for the decisions being made in governance in this country. It ain't no one man running this country. We are all elected members, and we have a voice in the cabinet, unlike what used to happen, Mr. Speaker, where one man made all the decisions and everybody else just sat there. So apparently the leader of the opposition thinks that what he has endured for the last 15 years in government is what is happening in the United Workers' Party. But I have news for you. That does not happen in the United Workers' Party. We all have a voice. And we all have a say. And we do not have a dictator as a prime minister. We have a prime minister who is consensus driven. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, I take serious objection to a number of things in this resolution. Because, Mr. Speaker, you ruled that the resolution is okay. It's your house. I abide by this. Under normal circumstances, I would not debate anything there because it is not worth a debate, Mr. Speaker. It is not worth the debate. Because as I go through this, every time I read a motion in this honorable house, Mr. Speaker, I read motions on money bills and various other, and when the various bills that we are going to deal with, it says whereas, I expect whereas to be followed by a statement of fact, a statement that is substantiated by the realities of what is there. Now, the leader of the opposition may have the facts, according to him, but it's not there. It's not there for me to make a determination. And so, Mr. Speaker, what I see in this motion is a lot of suppositions.
Innuendo.
A lot of issues that you have to ask, who determines? So if I read, and whereas the Prime Minister has recklessly and irresponsibly allowed the economy to descend into unsustainable deficits and to incur new debt to finance such deficits, who determines what is unsustainable? The leader of the opposition is supposed to be the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee of the Parliament of St. Lucia. How many meetings has he called? If you are so interested in the management of how the economy is functioning, you don't have to write this to come in and to come and say, look here.
Mr. Speaker, the minister is misleading the House.
Are you standing on the point of
order? On a point of order. The Public Accounts Committee has nothing to do with deficits. It has nothing to do with the management of the economy. The Public Accounts Committee is a function of the Parliament, and it only deals with reports that come to it from Parliament. It has nothing to do with the management of the economy. Don't mislead the House, please.
Mr. Speaker, I've served on the Public Accounts Committee. I've been there. And I know the work of the Public Accounts Committee. You review the reports on the performance of the government as far as the management of the economy. The reports come to the committee and you bring in all the people from the audit department and anybody you need to question about anything that transpires as far as the accounts of the country is concerned. So, but it is when you audit things, you pick up what is there. So if you need to know. So, Mr. Speaker, people must not run away from their responsibilities and come and use the Honorable House for politics. Because this is politics. Yeah, I'm responding to you. If you come with politics, rest assured I will respond to the politics. So, Mr. Speaker, who says that it is unsustainable? Who run the largest deficits in government in this country? Almost every budget run by the Labour Party was a deficit budget. And the records are there to show. Hansard will show, the Economic and Social Review will show how many deficit budgets was run by the previous government, of which the leader of the opposition was a member and a self-proclaimed deputy prime minister. But you see, Mr. Speaker, they always invent things to give themselves titles that they have not earned.
The minister is misleading the House. I was not self-proclaimed. I had a seal from the Governor General. So I wasn't self-proclaimed. You're misleading the House. I never proclaimed myself. I was appointed by the Governor General. I have a seal to show you. I can show it to you tomorrow, or now if you give me time. You just come in and you're misleading the House.
Very well. You know, he's right on how he became minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's just like this motion. I want them to show me where in the Constitution that there is a position of Deputy Prime Minister in this country. I want them to...
On a point of order, where in the Constitution is the position of Minister of Agriculture?
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, I'm not going to attend this back and forth every time a statement is made that we shall have a back and forth every single minute. So let's keep ourselves under control. Honorable member, Castro South East, please proceed.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I can well understand why this motion is coming to the House. Because the leader of the opposition has now maneuvered his way through to become leader of the opposition. And so, he was, whether he was proclaimed or however he became Deputy Prime Minister, so he's trying to find a shortcut to become Prime Minister. That's what I see that's happening here. A shortcut to become Prime Minister. You're not even the leader, you want to be Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, and whereas, contrary to the assertion by the Prime Minister that the reduction of VAT to 12.5% would result in reduction of prices of grocery items, prices continue to rise uncontrollably. Mr. Speaker, when a Chasney owned the supermarkets in St. Lucia, what did they say? They said that, oh, they were increasing the prices on people. So now that a Chasney does not own the supermarkets, so who's increasing the prices? And he made reference this morning, Mr. Speaker, to lentils. Lentils is in the basket that does not attract VAT. But you see, that is what they come to this honorable House and do. The price went up, and you said VAT was the cause why the price went up. I'm just telling you, lentils does not attract VAT. You see, Mr. Speaker, that is the gamesmanship that comes into this House. That they try to do things, and they try to say things to mislead people and to scare people and to make them believe that the government has some control over the price of commodities. You know what we had the price control on? And I heard them, they talk a lot about the fuel. And we promise this about fuel and that about fuel. Well, tell them, Mr. Speaker, for me, that the highest price of fuel ever in this country was under the watch of the St. Lucia Labour Party when a gallon of gas was $16.85 under the watch of the St. Lucia Labour Party. And when gas was $147 US a barrel, it was $12.75 under the United Workers' Party. You want to come and talk about fishermen, and you want to talk about farmers and what they paid? So compare the price today, $13.95 with $16.85, and tell me, at what point did the fishermen pay the highest price for fuel? Member for Viewfort North. You see, Mr. Speaker, members cannot come to this honorable House and try to use the House to play politics and then to try and get away with it. Because, Mr. Speaker, and whereas the Prime Minister has been reckless with the financial resources of the country, evidenced by granting direct purchase to the Packer Company. They said they did not mention the company this morning, Mr. Speaker. He said he did not say any name. But look at it right there, Mr. Speaker. So who determines what is reckless? the leader of the opposition? Where's the evidence to back up his recklessness? And let me tell you about reckless and squandering. Because if that's the way you want to debate, Mr. Speaker, that's how we're going to debate. Office of the Audit, Director of Audit of St. Lucia. Special Audit Report of the Ministry of Communications, Works, Transport and Public Utilities, East Coast Road Project, an RDP project, Road Development Project. You want to talk about squandering resources of this country? You know what the report says, Mr. Speaker? On page 37, and we're talking about squandering money, and we're talking about vote of no confidence. The gentlemen, the honorable members on this side can bring a vote of no confidence against Prime Minister Alan Chasney, who has been one of the best leaders in this country. Let me tell you, RDP 001002, Lagan, was the contractor. The contract agreement, and Mr. Speaker, let me pause here to say, when you try to make people believe that because projects go out to tender, that is what protects the people of St. Lucia. This project went out to tender. The Southwest Coast Road. The contract amount was $43,750,000. You know what was the amount paid according to this audit report? $133,502,577.81. A difference of $89,752,577.81. You talk about squandering money. You want to talk about because projects go out for tender, that is going to protect the people of St. Lucia. The only protection that the people of St. Lucia have is when they have honorable men of integrity in the government, as you find on this side of the house. This is not found in tenders. You think that's all? That's right. Lindquist, who is the best fraud investigator in the world, could find nothing on me. After you paid him $3 million. And bring the report here. Bring the report here. And I have to deal with that. You talk about squandering. I will show you how much money was paid to him. I have all the receipts from Treasury. Yes. RDP 003, CCI. You talk about friends, family, and foreigners. Lagan was a foreigner. I can tell you the other 3 local companies who tendered on this project, and none of them got it. 2 of them came together and took the government to court because of the way the contract was issued. And what you all did? What did the Labour Party do? You want to talk about victimization? These 2 contractors were cut out completely. Yes, Fresh Start had tendered on that same project. No, on that same project they had tendered. RDP 3, CCI, contract amount, $23,515,158.93. You know what the amount paid was, Mr. Speaker? $49,097,319.21. A difference of $25,582,160.28. And Mr. Speaker, I had to endure an entire day in this house listening to these same men who are in government presiding over the affairs of the country when they squandered so much money. I'm supposed to sit here and pretend as if y'all are some saint who landed here and today y'all started governing. You think that's all, Mr. Speaker? You think that's all? RDP Consultancy, DIWI, DIWI, not Rice, DIWI. 7 million, had a contract amount, consultancy alone, $7,402,840.67. You know what the amount paid to DIWI, Mr. Speaker? $21,570,585.78 in consultancy fees, a cost overrun of $14,167,745.11. And the leader of the opposition wants to come and move a vote or a motion of no confidence in a prime minister who has shown the greatest capability in managing the affairs when it comes to the financing of this country. And you are in the House. You are there. It happened under your watch. The member for Viewfort South, the member for Labrie, the member for Viewfort North, all of you are in the House. When these things, these atrocities against the people of St. Lucia took place under your watch, and today y'all come into this House as if y'all are some saint, and you want to question. I want you to challenge a project that has been done under the watch of the United Workers' Party since we came into government, that have gone into cost overruns of anything of that magnitude. For that matter, you all invented the word cost overruns. Don't worry. That's your jail. But you want to come out of your jail. That's your jail, opposition. That is where the people sent you.
Honorable Member Castro South, through the chair.
Mr. Speaker, through you.
Mr. Speaker, on the point of order, can I ask that copies be made? I'm not familiar with this
That's
document.
already a document.
But I've never seen it. I've never seen it,
You
Mr.
just
Speaker.
So, honorable members, I know the hour of the days having an effect.
I just come, I never see it, so can I see it?
But honorable member Castro itself, it's a document of the House, and I shall request through me, or we could get it to you.
I don't even know if the honorable member is citing correct figures. I don't even know. The last time we started, you chastised me and said, and I must tell you, Erskine Mays says otherwise, that documents have to be circulated beforehand. I don't even know if he's citing correct figures. I am not familiar with the document, Mr.
I'm not taking issue with what you say, honorable member, okay? I'm just saying that it is a document of the House. I will so ensure that a copy is called.
You want the book, you can have the book.
Honorable Member Castro itself. Honorable Member Castro itself. Proceed.
I have enough copies. Pass it on to him. Mr. Speaker, I go to the next section. And whereas the Prime Minister, by his amateurish and inept handling, that is judgmental. I mean, how does that make it on a motion in the House? How is that a statement of fact? Huh? That's judgmental. Who are you to pass judgment on people? Bring the facts. Show what he did. That is amateurish. Don't come and say that as if, and I'm supposed to just sit there and just accept that because you said this. You see, it goes on to say, by willful, recklessly, and deliberately stopping all work on the reconstruction of St. Jude Hospital, the Prime Minister has caused further deterioration in the health care service of the people. That's a supposition. That's not a statement of fact. There's nothing to substantiate that, Mr. Speaker. And I can go on. Everything in this resolution, as I go through it line by line, that's a market step resolution, not a parliament or resolution. You know, here another one, Mr. Speaker. Here another one, a classic one. And whereas the Prime Minister has adopted an approach to governance of the country which many think is unstatesmanlike. What is many? What is many? How many is many? By whose determination? Where is the survey that was done? Where is the empirical data that can be presented here to show this honorable house that the many you're talking about is really many? You know, Mr. Speaker, for a seasoned parliamentarian who has been, and you know, Mr. Speaker, sometimes it's good to let these things come through, to show the men who think that they are so bright and they've been there for so long and they know so much, to let that go. And to your 20 years, Kirby, if I go to write something like that after 20 years, I'd rather not be there for 1 year. If that is what I can produce after 20 years in Parliament, I should be ashamed of myself. I would remove myself from the Parliament if after 20 years, that is all the resolution I can bring to the Parliament.
Honorable members, Honorable Member Castle South, East. Honorable Member Castle South,
yes,
yes, no, you remember, remain standing. I was about to ask you, do you need my protection
No,
further?
I don't need your protection,
Okay.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for... You see, Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking about myself. If I write something like that, or I come to this honorable house, and I write that, I would be so disappointed with me. You know, and he describes the Prime Minister as amateurish. Is there a word before amateurish? That's lower than amateurish. This resolution is less than amateurish. It is less. But that's the best he could come with. Even after you send him and fix it, you know, Mr. Speaker. So I can imagine what the first one was like. I can just imagine what the first one was like. If that one is all he could fix to bring to this honorable house. You know, Mr. Speaker, he goes on to say, and whereas the Prime Minister in a deliberate and calculated act, how can the member for Castries East, is in the Prime Minister's mind? How did he arrive that this is a deliberate act? And here his conclusion, that removing the subvention caused it to close, caused the National Trust to close the Derek Walcott Square. So why is Pigeon Point still operational? So the National Trust deciding in its list of projects which project it would give priority to, because as government, we have a lot of roads to fix. We cannot fix all the roads. We decide we'll fix this road today and we'll fix another road tomorrow. So you are telling me that because there's not enough money to do what is to be done, so you deliberately did not fix a road? And it's that action that caused the closure of the Derek Walcott House? I mean, how is that possible, Mr. Speaker? That grown men, learned people, those who boast about how long they've been here, how can they write that? sorry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Now, let's talk about the dismissal of the nice workers. Now, the member for, maybe even before I went there, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to deal with the member for Dennery North. Dennery North, Mr. Speaker, the member spoke. But all I have to tell the member, when you can account for what transpired with the minister's account and with everything that is still unaccounted for in this, we will have a conversation. But we will have this conversation in due course in this honorable house. Mr. Yes, Richard is your spokesman. Now I heard he lose his voice these days. So you'll figure out what to do. We talk about squandering people's money. Cabinet conclusion number 411 of 2012. Appointment to conduct forensic investigation. Cabinet confirmed the appointment of Mr. Robert Lindquist for the purpose of conducting forensic investigation on behalf of the government of St. Lucia. The Attorney General, after consultation with the Prime Minister, will act on behalf of the government of St. Lucia. So, Mr. Speaker, these are all the receipts in excess of $3 million. Treasury receipts. Somehow it disappeared from the system in the government, in the government system. Every phone call, every email, everything that I did is there. Where's the report? Why y'all hiding the report? So that is squandering the people's money. That $3 million, you'll find out who have it, don't worry. I'm not afraid of the Americans. I welcome the Americans. I welcome the Americans. So, Mr. Speaker, as we go on, you know, they talk about we remove the subvention from the National Trust because they did not give us permission for the Dolphin Park. And the same government gave permission for a company to establish a Dolphin Park at Pigeon Point. You all forget that already? The cabinet conclusion is there. You want me to name the company? I wouldn't name the company. Mr. Speaker, the DSH project, which they have made a whole heap of noise about. The DSH project, we come into this. So here's the reasoning. And here's a man, Mr. Speaker, who said that he has spent 25 years in this parliament. And the honorable member for Babono was reading from a letter. First of all, here's what he said. You can never show me that there was any lease arrangement in that. And then he changed. He said it's the government. So tell me something. And I'm trying to understand that, because I'm trying to rationalize that in my own mind. So the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Dr. Kenny Anthony, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Affairs, Planning and Social Security, copied to Peter Foster on page 8. So the government signs a letter and sends it to Robert Ainsworth. And the contents of the letter, it says, during our discussions, you have outlined that you and your partners will purchase the parcel of land that comprised the La Paradis properties at Prale, and thereon create a hotel and residential development second to none seen in this part of the Caribbean. It will include concepts, details in your brochure, inclusive of high-end boutique hotel, residential properties. Development will be in the region of 800 million United States dollars. Now here's where I'm going, Mr. Speaker. These are the persons who tell us that $2 billion Pearl of the Caribbean project is a pie in the sky. That this is, you not worth listening to or responding to. So I will not respond to this. So let's do some calculations, Mr. Speaker. 800 million US dollars, eh? You would also acquire by lease or purchase lands primarily in the south of the island, measuring approximately 1,000 acres to construct the manufacturing plant we spoke of. The equipment alone, hear this, we're not talking about the price of the land. We're not talking about the building of the factory. The equipment alone to be installed in St. Lucia in the first instance will cost 500 million euros. So if the equipment is going in a factory that's taking 1,000 acres of land, I can imagine that we over $2.5 billion investment. But Mr. Speaker, the construction of the plants will cost an additional equivalent sum in special construction material, and process will be included. So that is 500 and 500. That is 1 billion euros and another 800 million. So €1 billion is how many US? So you see, Mr. Speaker, but that's not all. The member for Castries East wants this honorable house to believe that a letterhead of the Prime Minister, I want to ask him, who in Viewfort has 1,000 acres of land to sell to somebody, when almost 10,000 acres of land in the same areas that we are talking about belongs to the government through various agencies, whether Invest St. Lucia, whether National Trust, whether Crown Lands. So I am supposed to believe that because it didn't have the government, so why didn't the man go and negotiate with the landowners? Why is the Prime Minister? Because this letter did not come from him, you know. This letter came from the Prime Minister endorsing the conversation. Oh, now is a letter of comfort. No, I'm not even dealing with the mining rights. Grindberg was not enough. So they had to give this, and altogether, if you read the full contents of this letter, it speaks to more than 4,000 acres of land in St. Lucia going to this one developer. And you know, Mr. Speaker, what is sad about all of this? These same gentlemen are coming to this honorable house and want to call into question what other people are doing. You have no moral authority to guide anybody in this country because your performance has been so lousy over the years in governance. Yes. And when you can produce the Linguist report, you will see what moral authority that I have to speak on this thing. That is when you will see what moral authority that I have. Why are they after the leader of the United Workers' Party? You know, there's a definition for madness. That when you do the same thing all the time and you expect a different result, that's a definition for madness. So, yes, I'm using your same tactics on you now. Definitions. So, Mr. Speaker, in the definition, here's what happened. When they heard the Prime Minister would be becoming the leader of the United Workers' Party, they started their work. They tried everything. It did not work. They attacked him on every platform. They said the election was not Flabo versus Labour. It's Labour versus the Chasnays. It still didn't work. Yes, you all said I'm a Chasnay, I'm the poodle. That's what you all said. But when they talk about other metaphors, it's different because it's some doctor that use it. Because some doctor use a word who think he's smarter than everybody else. But the definitions remain the same. So, what has happened, Mr. Speaker? They attacked. They attacked. One of them, he's my friend. We shake hands, so I know he's not a ghost or a spirit. He said, not over his dead body, and I've seen him, and I've seen Mr. Shasney as the Prime Minister. So sometimes I am wondering whether something is wrong. So Mr. Speaker, they tried all of this in government. They were in government. We were in opposition. They attacked every single day. They lost the elections. The Prime Minister won by one of the largest margins of voter turnout in this country when it comes to the margins of victory. One of the largest. I did not say the largest. Yes. When you won by the largest margin, I help you. Now I'm on the other side.
Honorable Member Castries Office, through me always.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, yes, you all don't want me now because when you all offered me a seat to run, I turned it down. Yes. You were not there. Yes. I'm the only person that know it. Is you alone that know who would vote for you on this side. We waited for the vote. You'll see who voted for you. Is you alone that know. So, Mr. Speaker, the attacks, the members opposite was not satisfied with what they do on the platform. They have weekly press conferences. They're not satisfied. They had two talk shows every day. It's Alan Shasney, Alan Shasney, Alan Shasney. Every day. Still not working. You know, they have left out there, Mr. Speaker, and that's why I'm disappointed. And I hope you understand with me, Mr. Speaker. That's why I'm disappointed. You did all of that out there. You got the same result, overwhelming support for the Prime Minister. You still not learning? You come to the Honorable House to get more licks. Huh? Yes, and you'll get more licks. Mr. Speaker, through you. You know, now, Mr. Speaker, based on my definition for madness, is only mad people that will do that. And look at it, Mr. Speaker. We were not even going to respond to them. Two of them said the same stories that they have said all the time. We said, okay, let's stop this. You want to test what support the Prime Minister have, let's put this thing to a vote. No. You infringing on the rights of the minority. So all of you spoke. When it comes to our turn to speak, you stand in to close the debate. So you're not infringing on the rights of the majority. It's okay. It's okay. You want to close the debate when you want. So, Mr. Speaker, I move on. You accuse the Prime Minister of interfering with the employment of people. Mr. Speaker, we inherited a public service commission that this government appointed months before they called elections. And you have to understand what we inherited, you know, Mr. Speaker. Because at the end of the day, look at the situation. They passed a budget in April. They called elections in June. We didn't make no fuss. The Prime Minister came and managed a budget that they passed better than they could have ever done themselves. And we had growth. We had growth. So in essence, the Prime Minister has not presided over free budgets in his term in office. He presided over one of your budgets. When they came into office in 1997, what did they do? As soon as they came in, they went and they passed a supplementary budget. You forget that? You wasn't there? We showed you that what you could not do with your own budget, that this Prime Minister, who's a much better Minister of Finance than anybody on this side of the House, use your own budget and do what you could not do with it. That is what leadership is about. That is what leadership is about. And so, you keep on attacking the Prime Minister. So you're not satisfied with the market step politics. You're not satisfied with the protest march. So you come to this honorable House to bring the House into disrepute over ill-fated allegations, things that cannot be substantiated, that will go down in the records. That's the history that is being. That's the historical part of this. That is what is the history. So, Mr. Speaker, what we should have in this honorable House today is a counter motion of no confidence in the leader of the opposition for bringing something like this to this honorable House. That is what we should do. But you see, for all his years in the politics, that's all he could accumulate. So, collective responsibility is what this government is about. Nothing burns me. When I was in opposition, I sat in opposition for 5 years. I did what I had to do in opposition, and that is why I am in government today. Look at where you are. But you're not happy with where you are. You cannot, Mr. Speaker, through you. The leader of the opposition, because they give him a try. They give him a try as leader. You didn't hear what the member for Central Castries said? Labour Party is still looking for a leader. The member for Castries South, he's talking about who we should support on this side. I asked him who he's supporting. He doesn't know who he's supporting. He doesn't know if he's supporting you. He doesn't know if he's supporting himself. He doesn't know if he's supporting the member for Beaufort South. He really doesn't know who he's supporting. But you want to come and tell members on this side. And you know, you want to play cheap psychological politics on the minds of people. If we want this, let me tell you, even if all what you said there about Alan Chasney was true, he is still a better Prime Minister than the Prime Minister you have had on this side of the House for the last 15 years. Because the records show that your performance has been dismal. 3 years of negative growth. And you want me to continue debating? I I have the cabinet conclusion on the STEP program, not the STEP program, the NICE program. Cabinet considered a memorandum dated 30th April 2012, submitted by the Office of the Prime Minister, noted that the proposal for the establishment of the National Initiative to Create Employment, NICE, Cabinet also recommended the name change. And the attachment says that the project, the name of the project, the title, the job opportunities, and the period of time, 36 months. 36 months. And these men that we, Mr. Speaker, that expect us to regard them as honorable, knowing that there is a cabinet conclusion. The only person I single out, with due respect on this, is the honorable member for Viewfort South. Because he came in this, I have heard him said that it was a free air program. Because he was the Prime Minister, and he knows that this was a free air program with an end date. So you telling me that because you initiated the program, that a new government coming in? Now let me tell you what this government has done. When you want to understand, I can tell you the names of the people with private businesses who benefited from the NICE program. I can tell you all of them who had people working for them for a year, 2 years, and 3 years under the NICE program, and the day the NICE program ended, they sent all the employees home. But I've chosen not to mention the names of persons in this house, because I don't say one thing when it's convenient and go and do something else when it's convenient. So I refrain from doing so. But I know them. I know their political affiliations. I know the people who are working for them under the United Workers' Party government, under the same NICE program. Mr. Speaker, they talk about victimization. There were about 40 caregivers in my constituency. Only 2 or 3 of them was from Castries Southeast, the second largest constituency in the island. So they could not find people. And today, I have about 45 people working under the caregivers program, and they are from the constituency of Castries Southeast, because that is what they elected me to represent their interests, first and foremost, in the Parliament of St. Lucia. But you see, Mr. Speaker, I was in opposition, so I was squeezed. I was punished for being in opposition. I was victimized to the core, to the point where the leader, the Prime Minister, said he's going to do whatever it takes to see to it that I'm not in this honorable house. And check where he's sitting today, and check where I am. We're not God. None of us here is God. Only God is God. Only God is God. So we are not the ones who decide what the fate of persons are going to be, and the resources of the country were used to fight us. I self-righteous. The man who was saying he's self-righteous, what did he say? I don't even want to repeat what he said, Mr. Speaker. He said, where something. So I'd rather not say it. But these are the men who want people to respect them. And when it's convenient, when they lose their cool because they cannot deal with being in opposition, nobody in opposition took more blows than me. You only get nothing here. But I'm here. And I don't murmur and complain. And I have a Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, in closing. Because I can go on the whole night, you know. If you want me to give you reasons why this Prime Minister is the best Prime Minister St. Lucia has had in a long time. And look at this thing. He said the member for Castries South was asked a question. He always talking about this show and that show. They asked him, who are the persons who are prime ministers on this side? How many names you gave? Oh. So at least they have two on this side apart from the present prime minister. And I've always said it, and I'm on record as saying that anybody on this side of the house can be a better prime minister than everybody on this side put together. Because we are workers. That is what we are. And we have the benefit of experience on our side. Because the prime minister has a gentleman sitting next to him who gives good counsel. That's what you're jealous of. Let me tell you. Mr. Speaker, through you. Mr. Speaker, what they don't understand about this United Workers' Party is we don't have to pretend that we get along with each other. When we come to this honorable house, we don't have to have a meeting the week before for the people to tell us, look here, you're not behaving yourself well in Parliament as if you're getting together well with each other, which is what they told them on this side. And when they came to the house, they sat together, they posing, taking pictures, they're pretending. There are genuine relationships on this side, and we get along with each other, and when we have to quarrel with each other, we quarrel with each other. But nobody gets vexed with each other on this side of the house.
If we get vexed, we make up.
The member for Castries North can speak for himself. You don't have to speak for him. So, Mr. Speaker, we are in this honorable house today. And I say that I totally reject everything that is in this no confidence motion. And I will give the member for Castries East a little bit of advice. The next time you want to write a motion, find somebody who knows about writing motions for you. I know who wrote the motion, you know, but I will not say. Those who pretend that they are the Parliament of St. Lucia, and the documents that should be in the Parliament find itself at their homes. That's as much as I will say. But I want to tell you, I want to tell the honorable leader of the opposition that what you have presented to this honorable house is less than honorable. And it is something that will go down in the records, in the history, as the worst resolution to have made it to the Parliament of this country. And Mr. Speaker, I pledge my unconditional support to the Prime Minister, Alan Shastney, and leader of the United Workers' Party. I thank you.
Change the pampers?
Long, like a whole 5 seconds. And I know about seconds. I used to run 100 meters in 10 seconds.
Honorable members, unfortunately I was writing when you members, both members put on the line. No, I'm not saying, I'm just saying that I was writing at the time.
And you saw mine first. So. Long. A whole 5 seconds.
Don't try that.
And I know about seconds.
Don't try that.
Long after.
You know, man, you woke me up. You woke me up.
I'm ready to stand. Long. 5 seconds before you.
Let's vote. There are more members that we need to have to speak.
Honorable members between the two, any one of you?
Okay.
What's the issue, Mr. Speaker?
No, when good, some who catches your eyes. When I lift up my head, I saw the two lights. So
90% of them is
I've already stood.
No, it's all right. I give way to him, Mr. Speaker. I have no difficulty with that.
Mr. Speaker, seriously. Very, very, very seriously. Putting all jokes aside, Mr. Speaker. Putting everything that has transpired in this honorable House aside. Mr. Speaker, genuinely, I believe, Mr. Speaker, that the minority was not and has not been suppressed. That the government has had its say. Mr. Speaker, the government side obviously has the jurisdiction to sanction the Prime Minister. And obviously, Mr. Speaker, the government side has not exercised that jurisdiction. And I repeat the statement I made earlier on, Mr. Speaker. So why waste the people's time? Why? Mr. Speaker, I believe that it's time for the noes to have it. Yes. I call for you to put the question, and I ask you to put the question now, and I invoke 48-1.
Yes.
honorable members, the section being invoked by member for Dennery South at this present time calls on me as Speaker to consider whether or not there is any abuse of the rules of the House or any infringement of the rights of the minority of members present. At this present time, based on what has transpired thus far, I will have to rule no, and now put the question to the Honorable House. That would be my ruling. Honorable members, the question is that I will put the question. No. On the 48th one. Let me.
No debate. Mr. Speaker, Order 38.1 says, and you read it earlier, after a question has been proposed, any member may at any time during the course of debate rise in his place and claim to move that the question be now put unless it appears to the chair that the motion is an abuse of the rules of the House or infringement of the rights of the minority of members present. I'll stop at that, Mr. Speaker, because you're familiar. Look at the circumstances that occurred tonight.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, the very same 38.1 indicates after you have ruled that there should be no debate on that motion.
You can have a point of order during a point of order.
May I, Mr. Speaker?
I will allow, I'll hear you, sir, and then.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you are not in a position to prove which lights came on first. I gave way in good faith. That is to say, on the assumption that the member would be making his presentation or wanted to make his presentation. Clearly, in that kind of situation, where I gave way in good faith, it has to be an infringement on my right to speak, to respond, when it is obvious, Mr. Speaker,
the chair decides that.
that
The chair decides that.
when it is obvious, Mr. Speaker, that there was confusion between the two members as to their intent before the House tonight. That can never be right or fair.
And Mr. Speaker, taking into consideration what the member for Beaufort South has just said, in my opinion, and I can only give you my opinion, the member for Beaufort South purposely, or do we want another adjective? Deliberately, after I turn on my mic, a whole 5 seconds before him turn on his mic.
Honorable members, I'm not going to the back and forth. It's unfortunate that I was writing or I was taking down record that I ought to, according to our own rules, take down at the time. The position of the movers of the motion is before this House. Earlier in part of the debate, I so protected the rights of the minority for their side of the, or their version of the motion to be put before this House, which I have allowed. We are at a point where, well, it's unfortunate or not, the motion before me is for the question to be now put, and I have so ruled. I do not see at this present time any infringement. So the question is that the motion before the House now is that the question be now put. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion, say no. No. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Honorable members, the question before the House is that this Honorable House expresses its total lack of confidence in the leadership of the Honorable Alan Michael Shasney, and be it further resolved that this Honorable House calls for the immediate resignation of the Honorable Alan M. Shasney as Prime Minister of St. Lucia. I now put the question. As many as are that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion, say no.
No. Mr. Speaker, for the record, can I have a division, please?
That is fine, good sir. Madam Clerk.
The Honorable Dr. Kenny Anthony, how do you vote?
Aye.
The Honorable Alva Baptiste, how do you vote?
Aye.
The Honorable Alan Shasney, how do you vote?
No.
Honorable Sean Edwards, how do you vote?
Aye.
The Honorable Edmund Estefan, how do you vote? No. Honorable Dominic Fede, how do you vote? The Honorable Bradley Felix, how do you vote? Honorable Sarah Ford Bobray, how do you vote? No. Honorable Ernest Hilaire, how do you vote? Honorable Moses Jean-Baptiste, how do you vote? The Honorable Ezekiel Joseph, how do you vote? The Honorable Guy Joseph, how do you vote? No. The Honorable Stevenson King, how do you vote? No. The Honorable Leonard Montoute, how do you vote? No. The Honorable Philippe J. Pierre, how do you vote? No. The Honorable Dr. Gail Rigobert, how do you vote? No. The Honorable Harold Stanislas, how do you vote? No.
Honorable members, with a vote of 6 to 11, the noes have it, Honorable Prime Minister. No, gotta be early.
Mr. Speaker, I beg that we can suspend the House until today at 9 a.m.
Honorable members, the question is that the House stands suspended. We do adjourn the House until later at 9 a.m. I now put a question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The House is adjourned until 9 a.m.
All rise.